Scary. I'll announce it. All right. Good morning, everybody. Today is Daf Chavav, Maseches Ksubos. We already started the Daf, or today's Daf yesterday. And yesterday we did Sundays. We did Mondays, Sundays, Saturdays, and a bit of Fridays. Anyway, so we had all in less than an hour. We had a Mishnah. There's a recall. I think it was maybe Chav Gimel on the days, or Chav Gimel on the days. One of you go. We had a Mishnah over there that discussed about two Kohanim testifying about that I was a Kohen, this one's a Kohen. So whether we're Chayshesh for Gaimlin, for some sort of conspiracy that they're really so okay, I'll lie for you, you lie for me. And then if you look back in the Mishnah, just Chav Gimel on the base, Rabbi Yehuda. We have Amar Rebbe Lazar. I'm just reading from the Mishnah for a second. Yes, excuse me. The second Mishnah, there's about 5 lines in the bottom. So Amar Rebbe Lazar, Amosai, when they bring the Makom Sheyesh Orin. When there are people that are saying, no, he's not a Kohen. But if there's nobody protesting or saying, no, that's not true, then we says, okay, he's a full-fledged Kohen. We do elevate al piyei. All right. So Rabbi Elazar says Makom Sheish Orin, we don't, right? And then Rabbi Shimon says we do al piyei. So Zak, let's go back to our case now. So Gemara says 5 lines at the bottom on Chavav. Thank you. Hainu, Rebbe Eliezer. I guess we're changing Eliezer from Elazar, right? I guess so. Yeah. But there was no little asterisk over there changing. Okay, interesting. Fine. So v'chi tema. So if v'chi tema chad ikabanayu. Maybe if one person is protesting, one says this guy is not a Kohen. Let's say he's a Ben Grusha, right? According to Rebbe Eliezer, he holds that one person says he's not. We don't listen to. We were not mouthing up Piyei Achad. And he says no. The only way we listen to the protest is there's 2 people saying it's not a real Kohen, and then the one person's not never to say it's a Kohen. Well, that can't be. The only way to have a protest, a proper protest, the person is not a Kohen, is with 2 people. So what's not like this? There, Elahacha by Eskinan, the Muchsaklon Biavua, the High Kohenu. Everyone knew his father, right? Raymond Katz. Everyone knew his father was a Kohenu. Randy Cohen, yeah. Menafek Alea Kaila.
I know Mrs. Katz.
And then there was a rumor, the Ben Gerusha Ben Chalutzu, that his mother was a Gerusha Chalutza. So even though his father was a Kohen, but he's a Chol, right? So, and then what did they basically do? And then they lowered him. He says, you're no longer a Kohen. And along comes a witness. The Kohen who? I know that he's a Kohen. And turn the page. And then we go ahead and we elevate him. The Asu Beitrei. So first there was a rumor that one guy says he's a Kohen. So, okay, you're back to a Kohen. And then 2 witnesses come along and say, no, this guy's mother was divorced before. Then they lower him down. Now comes our case. Now comes along one witness. I know that he's a Kohen. His mother was not a Gerusha. Right? I knew it from my village. To Kuli Alma, Mitzarf in the Avis. Over here, everyone agrees that the Mitzarf in the Avis. Remember, we had 1 witness after the rumor, before the 2 witnesses. And the other witness after the 2 witnesses say he's not Ben Grusha. So everyone holds that they're mitzaref. In other words, they both, it's like almost 2 versus 2. 2 people says he's Ben Grusha, 2 people say he's not, right? So going on to have the is. The michush lezilusa de beidina. They're arguing in the zilusa de beidina, right? Make up your mind based in. It's good, it's not good. So the Rabbi Eliezer holds that since we go ahead and we lower him, so therefore we don't go ahead and re-elevate him again, right? Because it's elusive to Beidina. The Chashin is elusive to Beidina, right? And therefore, if there's Erurim, right, and one person comes along afterwards to start for the original person, we say we don't listen to it according to Rabbi Eliezer. Because why? We're concerned about the Zilzal Beis Din. It's like Beis Din appears like they can't make up their mind. Rav Shimon ben Yosav, yeah, you're right. Rav Shimon ben Yosav, no, we don't go ahead and leave down. Sorry. Ana nachtinale, we were the ones who lowered him. The ana maskinale, and therefore we can say he's not a Kohen, and then we can say he's a Kohen. It was elusive to Beidin like Hashinan, and we're not chayshish to elusive to Beidin. So Master Rav Ashi, if that's the case, afilu trei nami. Even then, if two afterwards, people come afterwards, according to Rebbe Eliezer, I think it's Rebbe Eliezer because Rashi also points out Rebbe Eliezer, right? If it's 2 to 2, according to Rebbe Eliezer, 2 people come after and say, no, he's not Ben Gushim and Chalutza, you wouldn't go ahead and bring him back to being a Kohen. You have witnesses testify that he is a Kohen, right? So you wouldn't do that because if you listen to Beidina, you can't change your mind anymore, even if 1,000 witnesses come afterwards. That doesn't make sense. So Ella Marashi mitzaref from the Eidos K'miflagi. Rather, Machlokes is whether we actually are mitzaref the original witness with the witness who comes after the 2 who says he's not a Kohen. That's the Machlokes. When we look at the Ani Tanais, the Machlokes of these tonight. The Tanya Lunar Brisa and Edusa mitzaref.
That's really what it is in there. If you mahmir to bring somebody to kuna,
but it's not so much the kuna as it's a din of it has to do with Eidos. It's the Machlokes how Eidos works.
no, but besides just the Eidos, is the
Well, that's the
kuna,
offset.
If it about Gusha or not, it's one thing. But when you talk about kuna,
Right, but
but
they want to know what the din is. And I was depending on not whether he's a Kohen or not, will be established by how we view Eidos, if we use this Eidos or not. So we want to say whether we start with Eidos. And as looks at the Hain Tonight, Machlokes not tonight, which has nothing to do with Kohen, with Kuna.
The second Eidos came later.
Yeah.
He's a Kohen. He's being started with.
He's not a Kohen.
No, the second one says he is after.
It says the other guy's a Kohen. He's being started with the original. No, there was a rumor he's not a Kohen.
Right.
One person says he's a Kohen
After that.
after the rumor.
Right.
So the rumor lowered him. One witness says, oh, he's a Kohen. So, okay, you're a Kohen now. 2 witnesses come along. He's not, his mother was a Gerusha. Then this witness now comes after that, those Eidos. So does he group with the other one?
That should be something for a time factor. So the next day it's 1 thing.
So let's see, the time. Yeah, so let's see. Let's see how this is going to start. The time learner, right? So you have the 7 machlekes over there, whether 2 witnesses have to see it together. In other words, they have to witness the event together. In other words, one person can see it alone, the other person can see the guy testified alone. That even if they don't witness it together, but they see the same ma'isa, or they have proof of the same ma'isa, but they weren't together, that's okay. And the testimony does not work unless 2 witnesses go ahead and testify together. And Rav Nassan Aimer, even if one comes today, another one comes tomorrow, right? So over here, I mean, Rashi doesn't really point out what the what the time issue is, but even separate days, there's no Tuchle Dibor, there's no same day of Beis Din when Beis Din's still ruling the matter. It's even the next day, that still works. So according to Shmuel says that no, that you can be mitzvah if you be like Rav Nassan, you can be mitzvah 2 separate days or 2 separate weeks, whatever it is, right? And according to Rav Eliezer, no, they're not mitzvah because they didn't testify together, and therefore we don't go ahead and elevate them back to being a Kohen. Fine. Now you mission.
But it's interesting though that Cohen is different than Measure 80. He's been in Cohen for a while. So it's not like they're witnessing an actual event.
Right. They're testifying about the status of his mother.
Someone else, I mean, they're talking, let's go testify together that he's a Cohen.
Right.
I know he's a Cohen. You know he's a
But according to over there, it's a din and Beis Din where they have to testify together. Knows we listen to Eidim, right? But the halal, it goes back to the din of Eidos. So now, when you have witnesses testify. Now, witnesses testify. It's not one witness and one witness. It can't be mistarif them. No, it's the testimony we care about. So just because one does one day, now one does the other day, we don't care. That would be Rav Nassan.
That is the machlokes, the whether
Right.
it's been a Kohen his whole life.
Right. Yeah. In other words, they'll testify. Oh, I knew the mother from the village, and she was divorced. She was married to my friend for 3 years before he died, and then she remarried. Or actually, they wouldn't be divorced, right? She got divorced, right?
She was both.
Yeah, she got divorced. Then he died, right? Zak the Mishnah. My Mishnah. Mishnah says Ha'isha shenichmasha b'dei eidei kachavim ayidei mama. A woman who is basically held captive by Goyim because of a ransom. They're holding her for ransom. Muteres labala. She is muted her husband. Over here, it's machlekes b'sheinim. as to exactly if we're talking about a Kohen, Eishes Kohen or Eishes Yisrael. But l'chayra, right? Rashi learned by Eishes Yisrael. She's mutter labaila. She's mutter her husband because they don't want to go ahead and basically, ruin her. Go ahead and violate her because that'll hurt their chances of getting their full ransom.
But she still needs to herself, she's
Right, but the concern is that she would do it. She would do the ratzah, right? Rashi points out over here. That's what machlokas, right?
Right.
Right. There's aydei nefashos. It says asur l'barla. We'll see the next one. However, if it's aydei nefashos, however, if they're holding her captive, in other words, that the potential she's on death row, then she gets out. Asur l'barla. Then she's asur her husband. As Rashi points out, right, the whole of the hefker, right? It appears that she was nisratza. She, even did it willingly, which would make her usher even to Eishes Yisrael, right? Usher l'bal, usher l'bal. So going back, so the Mishnah says, if it was just for ransom, for money, then they're not going to be like treat her like zilusa. They're gonna take care of their POW, right? But or whatever they're captive. But however, if it's the Pasha, she's on death row, they don't care, then they will violate her, and therefore, if somehow she gets out, she's asur l'bal. Zakt Gemara, Amarav Shmuel bar Rav Yitzchak, Amarav Loishan on the Shayad Yisrael to keep out of the Chavim. This Mishnah we discuss only talking about where Yisrael basically is controlling the guy. About Yad of the Chavim, but if it's in the Gayish and Medina, they're controlled. To keep out Atzman, Afil Aydei Mamon asur l'bal. Even if it's Aydei Mamon, even if it's for money, for ransom, they'll still go ahead. And for everybody, they'll even act with her minhag hefker, and then she might even do it willingly. Maybe she'll get better food or whatever it is. So she might do the ratzai. According to Rashi. So Meisiv Rav, so Rav has a kasha. So we're going to see this brisa 3 different times. So they testified that what shehur henna ba'ashkelon. So the woman was her enemy. Rashi says, she was held as a mashkon, right? She was basically a collateral, right? A loan was to be paid. If not, we get the woman, right? Loan wasn't paid, so now they're going to get the woman. And her family distanced herself from her. Basically, they said she's usher. However, the witnesses who basically testified that she was used as a collateral also testified that she was never in seclusion with him and she was never violated. She's tahira. If you believe them, from the same witnesses who testified that she was used as collateral, then also believe them to say that she was never violated. But if you don't believe that she wasn't violated, then you can't believe these witnesses. Al tamida shehurena. In other words, basically, the woman is kshera, right? The woman is kshera because peshas or peshiter, right? Basically, these were the witnesses who testified, and they said she's good. So I don't know why you're distancing yourself from her. She is kshera about. I go Ashkelon to Yad of Chavim, but in the case of Ashkelon, the Yad of Chavim, to keep Asman, it's the case of Ashkelon over there was other Chavim who were ruling themselves. They weren't under the Jews, right? Viktani, it says over there, turn the page, right? It says over there, was talking about a case of collateral. A collateral is even more if she was used as collateral. Once you don't pay, she's ours, right? We got to keep her. In other words, there's more of a reason to violate her, right? So Dafka in that case, yes, then she would be muteris. However, nichvasha, right? But if she was only held captive, right? Then lo, right? She doesn't need witnesses to say that she was usher. Now, it's only over there you need witnesses to say she's kshera, right? But if she was merely held captive, she'd be kshera. So, but what do you mean? You just said our Mishnah says if she's being held for money, that you need that she's right. That but it's under the goyim, that it's assumed that she's nitna because they'll be mezalzel her. But over here we see no, only in the case if she was held as if she was taken as a collateral. But if she was just held for ransom, she should be okay. You shouldn't need witnesses to testify. It's like, my answer is no. Being held, taken as collateral or being held captive is the same thing. So why just specifically use that case? Why And that's what the Maisa was. But if it was a case of that she was held captive, she would need witnesses to testify that she was tired. Now, Ikadari, some use this case slightly different. Amarava, Afam Netanima says a kasha they use it as a source, right? A proof for a Mishnah that a Mishnah is talking about not that with Mammon, that's only a case of when the Jews are in control. As Tanita, as we learn in Brisa, either Rabbi Yossi Kohen, Rabbi Zechariah, in the case of Al Basasol Shehur Hena Be'Ashkelon. They testified about a woman who was held as or taken as a collateral in Ashkelon, and her family basically this is says she's Asr Labal. They didn't say witnesses testified that she was taken as collateral. They testified that she was actually never in seclusion and she was never violated. The say yes, they should be believed. If you guys believe that she was actually held taken as collateral, then you should also believe that she was never in seclusion, never violated. If you don't believe these two guys to say that she was not violated or not in seclusion, then you can't believe their original testimony that she was ever even taken as collateral. And in this case, right? And over there, Ashkelon was a case of money. The Tama de Eidim and the reason why she would be Tahira is because witnesses testify that she was Tahira. But if witnesses didn't testify, then she would not be believed. In others, why? Because it was a case of Avei Kachavim who was ruling themselves. So we see over here, it doesn't make a difference whether it was collateral, is it not? Because collateral is the same thing as being held for ransom. It's the same thing. And therefore, it's a proof that if the Goyim were ruling, if they're in charge of themselves, that even Aydei Mamo should be Aser. The Gemara says, no, Harena Shani. No, maybe being taken ransom is different. Maybe taking as a collateral is different. If you're taken as collateral, you already defaulted on your loan. There'll be mazals over her. That case, you need witnesses. But a regular case of ransom, it could be that she would not need witnesses. And Ika de Rami Lamirman. Some use this as actually to bring as a question. So Tanan Ayde Mamateris Labala. So our Mishnah says that if it was Ayde Mamon, that if a woman was held at ransom just for money, they just want money, that they won't be knowing with her Minifat Hefker, right? And Materis Labala. I Raminu as a Kasha, Rabbi Yossi Vechule, we have the whole master of Yossi. And over there, Ashkelon Ayde Mamon. Over there is a case of money. The the reason why she was Tahira is because witnesses testified about her. But if witnesses didn't testify about her, then no. So you see what I mean? So you see money, she's usher. Our Mishnah says money is mutter. But Mashani, and over there, Rav Shmuel bar Rav Yitzchak, and that's when Rav Shmuel bar Yitzchak gave his teres like kasha. Kan she I decided to keep all the chavim. Kan shayad the chavim to keep all. Now it's a difference. If the Yisrael are ruling over the Goyim, then they're scared to do anything, even in a case of ransom. She's Tahira. But in a case of when the Avei Kachavim are ruling themselves, the Kival Asman, then in such a case, they would violate a woman even if she was just held for money. Fine. And then we said, because Ayidei Nefashos, she's on death row, then somehow she gets out of it, she's Asur Labala. So he says, Amarat, right? They're very strict, right? Law and order in those days. The wives of thieves, I guess the penalty for thieves and stealing that in those days was killing of the family, right? So she was on, in the so therefore, that was the case for Levi Omar, Ishta Shel Ben Dunai, like the wife of Ben Dunai, who was a Rotseach, right? He was a killer. And therefore, I guess the captor's wife, it says, okay, she's sentenced to death. And if she got out, then she would be Aser. And it has to be that she really has the verdict. Even if she didn't have the verdict, she was just before sentencing, then still should be Asr Labal because they would violate her. Fine. Naya Mishnah. Mishnah says, we're just going to get to the Amud Beis. Even though this is tomorrow's, we have to get ahead because of Tisha B'Av. Because Tisha B'Av, we're going to miss 2 blot in those days, so we're going to try and get a little bit ahead. So So if you have a city that was basically taken captive, right? It was under siege. All the Kohanos are subject basically to the visiting army, right? To the Russian soldiers, right? And therefore they're psulos, right? There's a chashash that they were violated even against their will by any of the soldiers, and therefore they're usher, they're psulos. However, if there are witnesses, if there's any witnesses that she was not violated, or maybe she was in hiding, or whatever it was, that she wasn't violated, even if it's an eved or a maidservant, right? They are believed. However, they're not believed about themselves, right? So anybody else testifies about them, they're believed, but they can't say I was, I was hiding.
What's specific about Kohen and Bach-Bach-Bach-Bach? What's this Kahonos?
To Kuna.
Also, Chukun.
Yeah, it doesn't. Right. Yeah, right. Anybody, right? Knows the possible Kuna. They can no longer marry a Kohen, even if there was a Pinoya. So, right, but it means, I guess, like they would be usher to the right. It's assuming that the Kohanos used to marry the Kohana. They keep it in the family. So Zak the Gemara, Ramin, who has a kasha, it says Belesha Shabal Le'ir, the Shas Shalom. So if you have a visiting army that comes to a city during the time of peace, they're traveling through Chaviyos, Pesuchos, Asuros. Any open barrels are usher because it's assumed that they used it for libations or something else. They used it stumos, but if it was sealed, right, then mutaros. Then it's mutter because they were not going to open it and then close it and seal or reseal it up. So you can assume that those are good. They didn't go ahead and mess with those barrels of wine. However, b'shas milchama, during times of war, elu mutaros. Lafishein panai, but however, during times of war, then all the wine is good. Why? Because they don't have time to start doing nisach. They're in the middle of battle, so they don't have time, free time to do anything. So what about our case? Why they don't have time for the women? Right? Why the women usher? No, they have time to violate women. However, it's a time to do libations and to do whatever avodah zarah. Then they do not have time for that. So no, it's even a time of war. There's always time to violate women. And Rav Yitzchak no, different theories. If it's basically your own army, so the own army treats people with respect, and therefore they're not going to violate them. But if it's a visiting army, it's an attacking army, then they'll go ahead and violate those inhabitants of the city. Even if in the same city, one of them went up and violated a woman. So why don't you say that? Some of you are Shmuel, Kisha, and the Shemaros, right? When they're Roazozo. No, so they have basically they're surrounded. People are being protected by different watchmen, and they're watching over each other. So, and therefore, no one gets through to go ahead and violate the town's inhabitants. So, let's say possible one of them fell asleep, and the soldiers snuck in and violated somebody. So Rabbi Levi could go into Mahadrele, Lamasya, Shilta, the Kalba, the Gavza, right, the Afsa, right? No, they surrounded them like they had chains, they had fences up, and they had dogs to make noise if people got through, or geese, right? And so they put all these parameters around that, and the spikes, right, and all these things that people will not be able to get through. Right. In other words, so basically they had a good ring system that no soldier can get in without being caught. So therefore, there was no chashash. And number Rabbi Abba Bar Zav the Pligi Bar Rabbi Yehuda Nesiya B'Rabban. Machlokes in the Rabban Chad Omar Kam Kerchem Shalos Malchus Kam Kerchem Shalos Malchus L'Cheres. In the case of Osa Malchus, nobody is violated. Only the case of a visiting army, then the women are usher. Even your own army. Right, you have all the, someone could sneak in, the soldiers leaving. Right, so one of them wasn't bothered by those questions. Kohani was bothered by perhaps someone would sneak in while the soldier is sleeping with the watchman of Mashani could go into Lamasya, Shalishta, Bekalva, Vegamza, the Abzo. When they have geese and dogs and chains and people all around, so then they set up around the parameters, prevent even one person from coming in to violating a woman in a case of their own army. And Amar Rav Idi bar Avin, Amar Rav Yitzchak bar Hishan, Im Yesham Machbo Achas Matzelas Al Klanas Kula. If there's a hiding place, there's a cellar down there, right, a hidden place where the visiting armies don't know, that saves all of the women because each one could say, I was in there, I was hidden, and therefore I was not violent. So boy, Rabbi Yirmiyah, okay, so let's say the seller could only hold one woman. And you have 50. Mahu, what's the halacha there? Do we say that each one can say, hey, I was the one who was in hiding?
Individually.
No, but it can only hold all.
No,
It can hold. Oh, you say when they ask the question?
In other words, a woman can appear before basically.
Okay. So we'll get it.
Each one individually.
So let's
can
see.
say
Let's see.
they
Very
were
good.
there.
So me
But
and
if they
Rina.
all come as a
Right?
group.
Okay. Very good.
then
Good.
it's
Good.
impossible.
Good. So me and Rina. Do we said each and every one can say, "Hey, I was there." Dilma lo yamrin, or maybe don't say. So what's the difference between this and the case of there's two paths? There's two paths to a place, and one of them we know has tuma. A body was buried there. The other one we don't know, but we forgot was it path A or path B. So one of them went there and then he dealt with this different taros. And then his friend Bahalach B'Sheni went to the second path, the taros, and he did taros. So Rabbi Yehuda Aimer, if each one asks in the row, there's two paths. I went there. I took path A. Tar. The other guy says, okay, one of them is path A, took path B. Tar. Right? However, Shem Kachas, they'll both ask together, then Timeus. Then they're both Tamei. And Rabbi Yossi, Omer, Benkach, Tamein. And Rabbi Yossi says, no, either way, we'll just get to the bottom. I just wanted 45 because today's bottom. So he said, Benkach, says either way they're tamei. If they ask at the same time, everyone holds it's tamei. They ask one or the other, then it's tar. So when it comes to ask on behalf of me and my friend, one says it's like they ask them all together. One says one or the other. Came with the Charlotte the Kulu Kabasaka. Since we say all the women are mutter, even though they're all not asking together, one asks for all of them, it's Kachas Dami. So Achi Hashib says, no, you can't compare. Hasam Vada Ikatuma. Over there was Vada Tuma. Over here, who says it was Vada, they were Vada violated? It's only Chashash. So therefore, since it's only Chashash, it's not similar to the case, and therefore we can say they were all tar. All right, we'll stop here at the bottom. I don't want to go past 45.